In this section, we want to introduce a shopping mall valuation. Now, a lot of circumstances we have to do the valuation for housing, but apart from housing, there may be one kind of the items for which that we usually need to do valuation is a shopping center. And the following factors must be taken into account when we do the valuation for the shopping center. The first thing is about demographics. So we have to consider the demographics of the areas, particularly the rate of change and also the expenditure per household. Demographics actually play a very important role towards like the shopping mall valuation. Say for instance, usually for the marginal propensity to consume of the elderly is actually lower than those younger generation. If they are working and then if they have got money to spend, and then they are more willing to spend on the shopping mall nearby as well. So the demographics of the area is actually play a very important role of the value of the shopping center. So is it the site high and visible? So a level site is less costly to develop than a steep one. So the site should be larger than current needs so that the expansion is possible in the near future. So one of the other thing for which it is very important is visibility. Because the shopping mall is actually determined by the shopping mall valuation is determined by how much income that can be generated by the shopping mall by the shops selling activities. So if nobody know its existence, the visibility is low. Shopping mall is of not much value. That also explain why, in case of like Pokemon Go many years ago, why there are a lot of the shopping mall that they try to invest and put money into the Pokemon Go is that because they would like to increase the visibility so that people are motivated and they go to the shopping mall, at least that they know the shopping mall. And later on, then you may still go there once, twice, or many more times. However, if there is nobody who know the shopping mall is there, then you will not go. There is also in the same reason for which that there are a lot of shopping malls that they try to spend a lot of money in inviting the pop stars so that individuals are drawn towards the shopping mall. Another thing is the centrality or the access. Centrality is very important. So, say for instance, in Australian cities, for example, that they are nodal in character, so the centralities will serve the greater population. In Hong Kong, that also takes the same reason, where you can see that shopping mall in Causeway Bay, you don't need to do a lot of things to attract the buyers. However, if that is in Tin Shui Wai or in Tuen Mun, for example, if that is not that central, where not many people go there, apart from the locals, then it means that you have to spend much more money in attracting the crowd. Transport and public transport routes are generally radial to and from the CBD, and then therefore that public transport and also traffic plays a very important role towards the value of the shopping mall. So if they have got a better transport, better traffic, then it actually can push up the price of the shopping mall. Say for instance in Mong Kok and also in Causeway Bay that they have got a pretty large crowd no matter what. Unless that is like for some other reason which includes like uh, the uh, the um, the political movements in recent 3 months, and then there will be another factors. But then in general, better traffic, better public transportation actually can attract much more larger crowd because you may need to change uh, transit for example. So like, if you go to Singapore, you may find that those station, if they have got a transit, if they are the main transit station, there are a lot much more people in the shopping mall as well. So say for instance in Dublagon in Singapore that they have got a lot much more people there, and then the more value is of course higher than those for which that you have only got public housing or the housing estates nearby. Now, this actually gives the CBD the highest level of access and therefore highest value. CBD is the area for which the people work and they have money to spend. So therefore, and then another thing is that they are the central area of the, as what is to say in the CBD, is a central business district. So it means that they have got a high level of access and therefore highest value. However, as city expands and convenience becomes much more important, so that there is competition between CBD malls and also regional shopping malls. So it is like in Hong Kong CBD malls that we have got a lot of people who go there, but what you have seen is that even for the Twin Moon Shopping Center, they have a lot of people as well. So in recent few months, so you may find that even for the regional shopping center, they have got much more people to go there. While the CBD area, because of the political movement, that they have got a great job in the number of people who go there. Another thing is that the valuation of the physical improvements is very important. You may see that there are a lot of shopping malls which try to change the decorations and then a large scale refurbishment and renovation that it always takes place. So that you may ask a question why that they need to have got the improvements. Because of the fact that if it is obsolete, it does not look good, then you may not go there as well. Some people just go to shopping mall not because of shopping alone. They may take pictures, they may show that to the friends, relatives, and then put it into Facebook and social media. Well, social media is getting much more important. Retail improvements, it has got some of the importance in regard to the value. So retail improvements have one of the highest depreciation rates because of the rapid economic obsolescence. So therefore, valuers should examine the need for rebuilding or renovation if that is necessary. So there is actually a journal article which study when should we have got the renovation, when should we rebuild the shopping center. Actually, this is a very important question. And if you repair it, renovate it too often, a lot of people will find that it is like it does not look good. The shopping mall does not look good because everywhere is renovating. You have no shops to do your shopping, so that the value of the shopping mall will drop. However, if you never renovate within like 10 years or so, then it will become obsolete. A lot of the facilities looks old and then it lost attractiveness. So which time is the optimum is actually one of the questions for which most of the property management that they have to solve this problem. Now, the present value of the expected cost is deducted from the capitalization value. So are there any government orders over the improvements? So you have to check for like heritage, fire, health orders, etc. Check the highest and also best use against the current zoning. Now that is very important because if the zoning is, for example, a comprehensive development area, that's CDA, then it means that you can actually have got some of the residential buildings on top of the shopping mall, and then there may be some other elements for which that you can build you can do there as well. But what you have to do is that you must check the highest and best use, because if the within the current zoning it is that you're allowed to build the office towers, probably the office tower may be of higher value under this condition. Therefore, you have to check which one is a highest and also best use against the current zoning. So for example, land could be on the fringe of an expanding commercial area, and the commercial use may be the highest and also best use. So the rent schedules of the shopping center is commonly large and complex. So you have to so in case of Hong Kong, for example, we have got different schedule of rent. So one typical example is that they have some of the base monthly rent plus the rents that come from estimation of the sales that you have obtained. So therefore, by the time the sales is good, then the rent then they have to pay a larger amount of rent to the landlord when the business is poor. However, that this proportion of the rent will drop substantially because they may have no business or they are running a loss. So that this part that they cannot be shared to the landlord. So unlike the other type of the valuation, mind you, that a very very important issue in the shopping center is that we do consider the amount of money that you have earned from the sales of your business. So this is a thing for which I deviate from the other type of the rent. So however, the valuer must determine the expected cash flow for the short run from the schedule, and this may be time consuming, but is an important and critical part of the valuation. So the valuer will need to know the terms and conditions of the leases, including escalation costs, responsibilities of outgoings. So you have to see like under what circumstances that they will increase the rent. Okay, method of determining the rent, for example, percentage of gross turnover, and also the base date. Okay, commonly the retail leases of the planned shopping centers are the net rental leases as the tenants pay all the outgoings. So the amount of the contribution to the merchants association uh, for each tenant to be checked, and then often it is too high when the tenants find themselves in a poor bargaining position. Tenant mix is also important. So mix is actually a proportion of specialty shops to the name tenants. So a major part of the value of the large shopping center is the anchor tenants. Now in the past, a lot of anchor tenants in Hong Kong relates to the Chinese restaurant. Because a Chinese restaurant may be so large that they have got over a few hundred people together having the lunch or dinner over there. So it means that there are a lot of people that are drawn just primarily because of the Chinese restaurant. However, as the family size is getting smaller and there are more people who eat their lunch in the Western restaurant or other types of restaurants, the value of the Chinese restaurant in serving the anchor tenants reduces. So you may have thought that is like, well, this answer towards what is the anchor tenant has changes over time. A tenant should be classified into according to the following classes based on the risk of the investment. Like high level anchor tenants, then there's like low risk because usually they have earned a lot of money unless they do some other side business for which that it leads to a long repayment of the rent, etc. And then low level of the anchor tenants that have got a low risk. National chain store, medium risk. State chain stores, medium risk. And then the individual chain store tenants, the medium to high risk. Therefore, mix is a ratio of the above. So we do not want to have like all of them they have got the high risk or all of them they have got the low risk. But some shopping malls are either too heavy or too bottom heavy. So that is dominated by the anchor tenants, national tenants, and the bottom heavy dominated by the individual tenants. So some of them that they are, especially in case of Hong Kong, for the branded shopping malls, usually they have got too many anchor tenants. So what does it mean by too many anchor tenants? That can be like Marks and Spencer is a kind of like departmental store which can attract a lot of people. Park and Shop and also some other supermarkets which draw the anchor tenants, and so as a cinema, and so as like for example other types of the anchor tenants which includes the Chinese restaurants. So that can be one case, but then there are also another case that is in terms of the regional shopping malls where they may have got a lot of them they are not branded stores, because actually the branded stores will not go to the shopping mall with a low level of population flow. So these shopping malls may be located in the district for which is so, or the location which is so far away from the transportation spot. So that can be like dominated by the individual tenants in that case. For example, in some of the shopping mall in Tuen Mun, for example, they have only got like barber shop, they have got photocopy shop, and then they have got some of the very small size of restaurant that it can only serve like 5 people or less than 5 people. So under these circumstances, these are the so-called like too bottom heavy. So it is dominated by the individual tenants. Usually, the big chain store will not be attracted to this type of the shopping malls. So therefore, a lot of circumstances they do not have a very good mix. And if the situation can be rectified, then the expected income should be adjusted to the bottom mix. So it means that they have got some of the anchor tenants and some of them they are not anchor tenants. Now, potential vacancy factor. You have to consider what are the potential vacancy factor. So a lot of people just ask a question: should we lower the rent or increase the rent, or maybe even increase the rent in case of the COVID? The answer is, of course, that we can expect that the vacancy will increase substantially. However, if we consider that this COVID factor will only affect for a short time, a very, very short time, say for instance 2 months, 3 months, okay, after 3 months no problem at all, then the vacancy issue is not an issue because you can actually increase rent substantially after this COVID problem has gone. However, if we expect that it will go through a very long time, say for instance, uh, for half a year or 1 year, then it will be an issue for which that we have to consider there's a potential vacancy that it may that potential vacancy may be so high that we need to consider that well the rent has to drop. The valuer should determine whether or not the current issue is the highest and also best use for the redevelopment potential. Because after all, the shopping mall can be totally can be uh, pulled down and then build another office, for which it may happen in some other areas. And then if it is, then the center may require the space for expansion to maintain its competitiveness. An important limiting factor on the development and expansion are traffic control regulations. So say for instance, if they found that the whole building is too crowded already, the district is too crowded already, they may not like the town planning department may not allow for the redevelopment into like an increment of 40 blocks of 40 floors, for example, from 20 floors to 40 floors, into turning it into an office tower. That may not be possible. So therefore, that we have to consider that the redevelopment potential, whether or not that we have got other alternatives that we can deal with that. So we may also consider that because that is like shopping centers often suffer from the high rates of obsolescence, the valuer should determine whether or not the expensive refurbishment is required in the short or medium run. Because a lot of circumstances there are so many people walk around, so it means that there are maybe high rates of the obsolescence, and then there are a lot of the shopping malls that they are doing different kind of renovation all the time. So if the shopping mall that it just takes a very long time that it has not refurbished, that it may looks very old and it is not attractive enough. So this aspect relates particularly to the plant and equipment, such as the air conditioning and also escalators. So these are something from which like it is like very clear, because it is like it affects people's air ventilation. It affects people feeling towards the shopping mall, and the valuer can use a life cycle plus pleasant values to check and evaluate the plant equipment whether or not that we have to establish a new one. If the new plant equipment or like refurbishment is required in the short run, it then the present value of the cost should be deducted from the capitalized value. So long-term replacement and refurbishment costs will be built into the reversionary capitalization rate, and therefore, as long as the rate has been properly analyzed from the comparable sales, there's no need for a direct adjustment. However, is it economical to carry out the major repairs? So there's a question that is always asked, and there is no standard answer on this, unfortunately, because it actually depends on what kind of shopping mall it is. What you have found is that usually for the very, very small shopping mall, they may have no repairment throughout like over 10 years or so, because they consider that it is not worth to do that. People go there because they want to buy cheap things. So if you try to do renovation, refurbishment, ultimately the cost must be borne by those like sellers of the shops that exist in the shopping center. So incurable obsolescence may occur in the older style centers, and if that is the case, the rebuilding may be the most economical solution. And there's no such thing as a bad shopping center, because generally all established shopping centers are viable if the rents charged to the tenants are low enough. This necessarily will result in low value, and ultimately alternative use will become the highest and also best use. So if we find that the rent is so low, sorry, then well, why not we just why not we just demolish it and then turn it into like an office tower instead of a shopping mall? The vacancy factor is actually a guide to whether or not the rents are too high or too low. If it's too high, then that would be then if there's too high in terms of vacancy, that means that the rent may be too high. But then we have to consider the state of the events that happen in the city. For example, if there is like COVID, then no matter what, we may expect that the vacancy will be a lot higher. Because actually, if you open a store, if there are no people that go there, then you are actually wanting a loss. So there should be a lot of people who just have got a wait and see attitude or they may just have the shops once they end up the contract, then they will just end the contract and without continuing the contract at all. The likelihood of the future competition. This factor is very important because it determines the risk to the investment in the long run. So if there are a lot of shopping malls nearby, that means that the competition is getting higher and higher. So therefore, it also affects the capitalization rate. A smaller middle suburban center may be safer than a larger center because actually for the suburbs, there's virtually no chance of the increased competition. Nobody wants to set up another shopping mall. However, in the case of like Mong Kok, because maybe there are a lot of shopping centers, even if one that they have built, there will be like another shopping center that is newer and look better, better appearance that try to compete with you. Because the people see that they may have got a business profitability is high there. The vendor should check with the local council for any recent lodgement of the development applications for the shopping centers. We may try to use a SWOT, and investment management has developed a set of factors which should be analyzed when evaluating a potential investment, and this is called the SWOT analysis. So for SWOT analysis, we may consider like the strengths. What are the strengths of the mall? Like, is it the location is like is good? Okay. Weaknesses, is it because of the fact that the population demographic factor is just like pretty poor? Opportunities, what are the opportunities? Like for example, do you have maybe like in the future that maybe one shopping mall have been turned into like office, that will we have any other, for example, other outsiders try to open a new shopping mall nearby? So that can be a flex. So the strengths and weaknesses usually refers to the internal factors of the mall, whereas the opportunities and flex usually refers to those external, that is the factors outside the mall in itself. A shopping center should be analyzed under the SWOT headings, and the valuation report should be constructed using the same hats. So various classification, like there are 5 tiers of shopping centers. So say for instance CBD, that's unplanned, regional center planned, district center planned, and a neighborhood center, and also local center. So that can be different kind of the classification, but various classification try to classify into like 5 tier of the hierarchy of centers. So we will try to use like that example. One example come from Australia. It is a place for which I have stayed there for a couple of months. And then another example that I will try to use is Gold Coast in Tuen Mun, where I have done the shopping center valuation before, and then for the valuation, Hong Kong valuation, for Hong Kong rating and valuation departments. So the Westview Marion in Australia, where I try to use it because it is very, very large shopping center in South Australia. This is actually the largest one regional shopping center in Adelaide, and more than just offering the shopping experience, but also fine dining and also entertainment venues. So they have got 2 departmental store, and then 4 discount departmental store. So it's just very, very large. Not just about departmental store, but it's like 4 discount departmental stores as well. 3 supermarkets, not just 1 or 2, but 3. 274 specialty shops and 30 square cinema complex, 3 bars and nightclubs, a variety of cafes and restaurants, a timing bowling center. You may ask a question, hey, why the shopping mall they have got this kind of tenant mix? Well, in Australia, for the shopping activities is different from that in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, you may just go around and then do the shopping. But in Australia, a lot of people they just go and do the shopping activities for once per week, for example, and they buy a lot of things within within one day, and they pack it and then drive it back to their home. Because a lot of them they just drive, they do not take the public transport. It also implies that this kind of shopping mall that they do not need to locate in the area for which is like in the CBD. And in fact, the Westview Marion is not located in the CBD. It is actually outskirts of the Adelaide in itself. So how they can attract the people, of course, is that they have a lot of these other things. So that if you have got a family of 4 or 5, then you can actually do all the shopping within this mall at one point at a time. Like for example, Saturday, Sunday, and then you can buy all the things there. So in the course of the 8 years, the DIY stores and the garden centers have moved out of the shopping centers. So what you have seen is that it is quite natural that these shops centers, they have got some changes over time. So the tenant mix will not be stable, all over the time. To a lesser extent, specialized food shops too, such as like greengrocers, fishmongers, and game pottery shops, they have disappeared from the town high streets. Shops selling telecommunication equipment are new phenomenon because actually it's the same in the case in Hong Kong where they have a lot of them is selling like mobile phone, okay. And while computer stores are found in more and more town centers, this is what it happens, similar to the case in Hong Kong as well, because of the like for example recently, we have got we have got like computer teaching, we have got like teaching over the internet, so it means that there's quite a large substantial growth in terms of like laptop computer and maybe like iPad, etc. So therefore, this is it also happened in Marion. It's also happened in Australia as well. People like work from home is very common nowadays, and planning authorities have been active in trying to protect the established shopping centers, particularly CBD trip centers, and also neighborhood centers. Well, there's strongly involving in the town planning and control retail development. So they just say that they have to direct a new retail development. Retail development will be permitted within the town centers, and in all other circumstances, retail development will not be permitted unless there is a proven quantitative need for the proposal. You may just say that why other development is not permitted to ensure that the competition is sufficient, but not too much, as otherwise there will be like one or two malls that will be closed. So there are no suitable sites available for the proposal within or adjacent to a town center, and there are no sequentially preferable sites or buildings. So the proposal should will reduce the number and the length of the car journeys. So why? Because they want to reduce the carbon footprint. So they just want to satisfy everybody's needs as fast as possible, lower the amount of and number of the cars on the street associated with the shopping trips. The development is or can be made highly accessible by foot, on foot, cycle, and also public transport. So development proposal of over 1,000 square meter outside of the centers will be required to demonstrate how they will comply with this policy by way of the retail impact assessment. Maintaining the shopping function of the town centers is important in supporting the local economy and promoting more sustainable patterns of the development. It is important therefore any retail development in wider urban area is strictly controlled. And the primary objective of this policy is to maintain and enhance the vitality and also viability of the existing town centers through the new development. However, where the development is considered appropriate outside of the town centers, this policy is ensured to direct the local locations which maximize the opportunities to reduce the reliance on the private car. So that even in Australia, in Adelaide, they try to reduce the private car, but is it that easy? I will tell you that it is not, because they tend to and get used to driving. So in this type of a shopping mall, cars park spacing is very important. So the similar phenomenon can be found in Bangkok, where if you have got a car parking space is sufficient, then the people tend to go there. If not, then nobody go there because everybody drives. There are a lot of people who drive in Bangkok as well. Even though you may say that there are a lot of people get traffic jam on the way, yes, but there are actually still a lot of people who drive every day because they live in the suburb, but then they work in the city center. So the policy is consistent with the government's aim to sustain and also enhance the town centers by making them focus for a new retail development. And this guidance is reflected in the policy of the structural plan, which require that the majority of the new retail development be based on the town center locations. And the structural plan also defines a hierarchy of the town centers. And this distinction seeks to focus all the new shopping developments compatible with the scale, nature, and character within the town centers with a bottom limit of the 2,500 meters. So that is actually the requirements there. So they want to be like, consistent with the government's aim, and then a hierarchy of town centers, etc. So the policy is applicable to all the proposals for the new retail development, including the new build developments, change in use, intensifications, and also extensions. And the retail development is defined as a general shops, financial and professional services, and food and drying. So they have to have like all kind of things that within the shopping center. So in assessing proposal outside the town centers, the council will require a retail impact assessment. Now in Hong Kong, we have got the environmental impact assessment as well. So on top of the retail impact assessment in Hong Kong, we have got the environmental impact assessment to ensure that the construction and the building process will not lead to a substantial problem towards the shopping centers. And then this containing the following information, like in relation to a need. So why do we need to have a need? And this assessment is also what we are doing now in Hong Kong. Need must be there, and the graded rates will be given to need expressed in the quantitative terms rather than qualitative needs. So say for instance, how many people are there, and then 1 to 100 people that they have got a shopping mall, etc., etc. So these like numerical figures are very important. And the proposal should demonstrate that the expenditure is available and that there is a clear retail demand, that there are gaps in the current provision which need to be met, and there is an evidence of inadequacy of the existing floor space in terms of the problems of overtrading. So in relation to proving that there are no suitable sites within or adjacent town centers, so within the government guidance will need to be carried out to which recognizes the government for the requirements for developers and retailers to be flexible about the format, design, and scale of the development. After all, shopping mall can be actually one of the visitors events. So if you are travelers, if you're a visitor from the overseas, if the shopping mall find that the shopping center has got a fabulous design, then you may go there. So it means that not just local will be drawn, but also some other people from overseas will be drawn. For example, amount of car parking space required. In Hong Kong, car parking space may not the most important thing because we have got a very good public transport. But in places like Adelaide, because the population is not that dense, and therefore that a lot of people will still drive instead of like taking public transport because there may be no public transport at all, or a lot of circumstances you have to wait for like an hour on Saturday and Sunday. It is very common to have like wait for an hour for like bus. So that why okay? So a lot of people therefore they just drive instead of like standing there and then take for a bus or train for a long time. Now, in relation to demonstrating a reduction in the number and the length of the car journeys, it is not sufficient for the schemes to be served by the modest public transport provision. The evidence will be need that the proposals will gradually reduce reliance on the motor car. So we actually want to reduce the carbon footprint in accordance with the transport aims of the structural plan and the local transport plan. So in the valuation report, the valuer should include the economic and also demographic data in the shopping mall, not in the housing, but in the shopping mall they require this. Okay, why? How many people that they may go to the shops there? It depends on the demographic data. If the shops is mainly served for the younger generation, then we have to look at whether younger generation and that particular generation that there are a lot of people more on that stage, and the population numbers and density, spending power, whether or not there are a lot of people they are at that particular age group, but then they have no spending power at all because it's like very poor area, so they have to make justification. And potential population change are taken into account when assessing shopping centers viability. Trade numbers and locations are determined by the shopper survey. Okay, the shopper survey is very important because they have to ask whether or not that they need to have more supermarkets, less supermarkets, more grocery, less grocery, more clothes shop or less clothes shop. So random sampling of the shoppers number applies, and also the customer competitions run by this center will be another important issue. So capitalization rates are actually determined by the risk of the investment and the opportunity cost of the alternative investments. So CAPM model for the finance people that you are very familiar with, that is a CAPM model is related to the construction of the capitalization rates, is particularly applicable to the valuation of the shopping centers, and generally the risk is a function of like location, including assets. The closer to the shopping center to the CBD, the lower the capitalization rate. size and quality of the anchor tenants. The higher the level of the anchor tenants, the lower the capitalization rate. The potential for the future competition, the higher potential, the higher the capitalization rate. Length of the leases, the greater the residual length of the lease, the lower the capitalization rate, and this applies particularly to the anchor tenants. Because the anchor tenant is the one for which they draw a lot of the population to the shopping centers. The greater the shopping population, especially the primary trade area, the lower the primary trade area is also known as a PTA, the lower the capitalization rate, but subject to the influence of the future competition. So therefore, large regional centers have the lowest capitalization rates determined largely by the high level of the anchor tenants. The highest level of the anchor tenants are departmental stores. Strong anchor tenants, but at the lower level includes like supermarkets. Okay, and then however the high level of supermarkets should be also be included because of large drawing power. Like for example, in case of Hong Kong, that we have got City Super. Well, the City Super is actually a kind of high-end supermarkets. So usually they draw not only the people there to do the shopping, but they also draw the people who can spend a lot of money in the shopping. So to some extent, for the anchor tenants, we also need to look at what kind of the anchor tenants are there. The share value of the large public retailers is actually a good indicator of relative rating to be applied when assessing the quality of tenants. So each class of the tenants should be capitalized at different capitalization rate. So you cannot just put, like for example, Gold Shop, like Fairwood, as the same level. They should be of different level. For example, a shopping center can be classified into four main groups of the tenants, like high level of the anchor tenants, 7%, low level of anchor tenants, 9 to 10%, national chains, 10 to 11%, local trade store, 11 to 12%, strong individual talents, that is like 11 to 13%, remaining individual talents like 12 to 15%, licenses like occasional stores like 15 to 17%. So they have got like different capitalization rates. What you have seen, however, is the high level of the anchor tenants. For example, those like in Australia, it is called the mayors. They have got a relatively high level of anchor tenants. Then we just put it as like 7%. Of course, its ratio is just a rough idea that there is like different level. It all depends on the changes in the people's needs towards like the one particular type of shops. Do remember, as what I say previously, that the Chinese restaurant can be classified as a kind of very high anchor tenants, but now it may not be that the anchor tenants that important as that in the past, because a lot of the Chinese restaurant has turned to a pretty small one instead of like a restaurant that can hold like 300, 400 people. So I would like to also include my more valuation experience as well in a Gold Coast shopping mall.